With any conspiracy theory, there's always stuff like that. The irrefutable facts are, as you look at some different images, there's one of your admirals there. I'm not going to say too much about him. These are just pictures of kind of the destruction. It's okay. I'm trying to lose weight. Um, so this battle actually, I'm sorry, killed over 2,000 Americans. It basically sank most of our fleet in the Pacific. Heck, even 2 days after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese carried out another raid against the Philippines, where we had even more ships stationed, and they wiped out our fleet for a good long time. That's what a lot of people don't actually know. But in the end, what Pearl Harbor did is it caused us to declare war. Um, and like nothing ever before, it caused a sense of unity among Americans. If they were on the fence about getting involved in this war to start out with, they're not going to be on the fence anymore. This is going to tip pretty much everybody, except one person in Congress. I might have told you about her. Her name's Jeanette Rankin. She was the first female to be elected into the United States House of Representatives. She was from Wyoming, of all places. Anyways, first woman. She was the only no vote to go to war with Japan. Otherwise, it was totally unanimous. And she claimed that this was all a big conspiracy. Of course, she was a pacifist too. Did that have something to do with it? No. Pearl Harbor also was granted Roosevelt's declaration of war. And here's another thing to think about, and I know I'm going way beyond. If I'm Hitler, I've got to be thinking, Japan, what a bunch of knuckleheads. You know why? Just think about it. America is the sleeping giant, right? If America is allowed to get involved in this war, and you knuckleheads have bombed it, what is wrong with you people? You should not get the United States a chance to mobilize their forces because they're protected by two oceans, right? Atlantic and Pacific. And all they have to do is readjust their economic system from producing Model Ts to producing tanks and bombs and guns. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's not like we're going to be able to fly across the Atlantic and bomb them. It's not like Japan's going to be able to do that. Even though they got close, I guess. The Japanese were actually firing at us up in Oregon. Did you know that? The Nazis were actually sinking ships off of the coast of New Jersey. I don't know if you knew that. But it's like, if I'm Hitler, I've got to be thinking, geez, I want to attack Britain. I want to get the Soviet Union. What are you doing, guys? Geez, you're killing me, Smalls. So, oh, I thought you. No, just, think about that for a second. Yeah. Couldn't it be argued that military actually was kind of the driving force for the aggression? Because the original prime minister that we had wasn't the one that was really. That is true. Yes. The Japanese parliament, the war party, ended up taking over the parliament prior to Pearl Harbor, and yes, Hideki Tojo was the leader of that war party, and yes, he had an expansionist mindset to be more aggressive, an aggressive tone against the United States. And so, yeah, it could be argued that might have had. So Japanese politics is maybe at work here too. That's true. Yeah, you were exactly right. So again, in every country, there's internal politics which drive the politicians, and that's obviously what happened. Yes, comment. Go ahead.
In the book, it states that Emperor got about office with general because Emperor wanted to decide that
yes,
make everything work with America, but he just switched over to general.
Just that militaristic stance, you know. And from their perspective, it's like, hey, they're probably thinking, hey, public opinion is behind us. Let's take it over. There are no consequences. You know, and that's not the first time that kind of stuff has happened before. Excuse me as I attempt to. All right, so the next thing. So the next thing is pretty much this. After this, and you can see Franklin Roosevelt signing the war declaration. Of course, Pearl Harbor is a National Historic Site today, where you can go and see the USS Arizona, which I'm going to show you right here. Has anybody ever been there? It's actually at the bottom. Have you seen it? It's just to live there. You go on with yourself. That's awesome. Hawaii is a place that I will probably never go. My wife lets me know about it. Anyways, pretty cool stuff for history people, and I understand it is still leaking oil. I gotta get to Hawaii. I gotta do a study trip. You guys can all donate to the Mr. Bird Fund in case you want to. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm all ears. Okay.
And then you watch this crazy movie for like 45 minutes, and then take you on this little boat. Then you walk on there and you can't talk and take pictures of everything. You can look down in the middle to the Arizona.
Wow.
So
interesting. Cool. I would love to go. Like again, I would love to go. Not gonna happen though. Anyways, so I'm gonna do sort of like the big ideas of World War II. Don't worry, you're not gonna be tested on little battles, okay? Like, don't even stress about that. Please. Every time I do this unit, I'm like, just, you know, let's not kill ourselves over who won this and who won that, because that's not the point. The point is that you guys should understand the broad strategy here. If you look at the Axis in 1942, and you see the big red areas here, if you're the United States generals, you're thinking that you're going to attack the nation that poses the bigger threat to world security. And that, of course, is going to be the Germans. You're going to go after the Germans first. I mean, by 1942, they have invaded the Soviet Union. They have started to bomb Great Britain in the Battle of Britain. They have pushed up into Norway. They have pushed up into Finland even. And what's interesting about that, Hitler always talked about, oh, you know, I want Lebensraum, I want land. And I'm like, you know what, that's ridiculous. What they really wanted is land that has resources on it. If you don't know anything about this area of the world where Hitler is taking over, know this. There's a ton of natural gas resources in Russia. There's a ton of oil in Russia. If the Axis can get control into the Middle East too, as you can see, they're kind of dipping down there in Turkey, kind of close to there. They can hook up a lot of the oil wells and stuff. And so, you know what? This isn't just a war about ideology, about killing Jews and stuff. War is about resources. I'm sorry, it just is. I mean, look at Japan. Japan, down in Southeast Asia, there's not only oil, there's also rubber, there's also other resources, timber, palm oil, all kinds of stuff. And And really, all of that is masked in this ideology that we need Lebensraum, we need living space. It's like, yeah, okay, I guess you do, but at the same time, you want resources. So Germany's the greater threat. In Europe, the strategy is basically going to be simple. We're going to attack the Axis up in North Africa first. I'm sorry, go back. And we're also going to, this is kind of stupid, but I'll just tell you, kind of tickle the underbelly of Europe there with Italy, the soft underbelly they called it. Meanwhile, the Russians are going to try to push from the east. And the Americans, with the help of the Brits and the French, because some of the French troops were able to escape, which I didn't go into too much, and attack Germany in the middle. And that's going to be essentially how World War II is going to be won. That's the basic strategy. The most famous battle that takes place is, of course, the D-Day invasion on June 6th of 1944, where basically Americans and British troops are going to, en masse, invade the beaches of France in order to push the Germans in and to gain the beachhead. And what that's going to do, it's the largest land invasion in the history of the planet. It's going to basically be a significant turning point. Because after this, the Germans aren't going to be able to hold the line against Western encroachment anymore. Before that, I just want to go back to this slide. Before that, in between the years of 1942 and 1943, the Russians have pushed the Germans back. And one thing that really messed the Germans up was the Russian winter. As the Germans pushed farther and farther and farther, they almost got to the capital there, which is Moscow. You see that? Like right up in the top. They almost get there, but the Russian winter comes. And it not only, it basically kills their ability to use their tanks. And the Russians have like this special tank called the T-34. It's pretty cool. It runs on snow. Not runs on snow, but what I mean is it's able to. No, but, and the Russians also have troops on skis and stuff. The Germans are freezing their tails off. It's kind of like Empire Strikes Back, the snow battle with the walkers, except minus the walkers. It's like that. Okay, you guys aren't Star Wars fans, something wrong with you. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the Russians have really done a lot of work, and so the Americans, it's up to them. As the Americans come in, the tide of war is going to start to shift. I also want to spend some time talking about this focal point here. Instead of this, I mean, I think, I don't want to go over this too much, but just understand war is full of lots of turning points and changes and things that can happen as a result of tremendous mobilization. The D-Day landing is by far one of the most amazing things to ever happen in a war. To actually fool the Germans into thinking that an attack may have been coming from a different place on a horrible day, on a choppy day, going across the English Channel right here. If I go back, going across the English Channel there, and I've been across the English Channel. It's only like maybe 19 miles at its longest, but it's choppy water and it's cold as heck. I mean, my goodness gracious. To have all of these troops get across that, essentially not completely undetected by the Germans, but almost undetected, is a tremendous feat in and of itself. I encourage you guys to check it out whenever you can. I'm sorry, go ahead, Susie.
My grandfather was in the to the state, and he said the Higgins landing route, they would go on the side of the road as the choppiness as it would go down to the first areas. So those guys, he said, were the luckiest, because they got caught and broke in the back. But the ones that didn't break the legs.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, so.
Okay.